Okay. Good morning. Good to see everyone. I hope everyone had a great weekend. Just got off the practice field. Excited to get going again. Had a really productive bye week last week. Excited about kind of where we were, how we ended the week. We got a couple 3-4 practices in. Got our young guys a ton of reps. Also continued to work on some things and got a few guys a little bit healthier, which anytime you can go in the month of November and you're playing meaningful football, I think if you look at the teams that play well in November, typically they're probably the healthiest teams as well. So that's a good sign for us. I think it's also a compliment to our strength and conditioning staff, our nutrition staff, and our medical staff. Just our ability to avoid injuries, maybe have a little extra physical armor that we're carrying around, and just stay healthy overall. I think we're playing a lot of people too, which I think always helps, especially like defensive line wise. I think last week we talked about we played 8 different people at defensive tackle, and that's a positive sign. That's a sign of a developmental program, and we want to continue those ways. But I'll open it up to questions.
Morning, Coach.
Morning.
You mentioned the health of this team moving into this home stretch, basically these final 3 weeks. What confidence does that give you, obviously, into moving into these 3 weeks with guys potentially feeling maybe as good as they can be going into these final?
Well, that's the whole kind of philosophy of how we went about our week last week. Was one, trying to make sure we stayed sharp. We didn't let the rust accumulate, but also try to push health, weight. Hydration, all those things that are going to allow us to continue to compete at a high level, and it's a balancing act a little bit. I mean, you gotta, make sure that you get enough work in, but also make sure we're getting young guys work. Trying to find that right spot for our football team right now, and I think we did a good job. Very competitive week last week, and that enabled us or allowed us to come out with a good attitude after the week.
I know, looking at statistics from the Boise game last week, average starting field position, very favorable for you guys. This Wyoming defense is a stingy one. Sustained drives, how important is it to get that against this Wyoming team, and how stingy is that defense from what you've seen?
Well, I think they've done a really good job. Aaron, their defensive coordinator, has done a really, very sound job in limiting explosive plays. They tackle well, very fundamental and very physical, I think, as a group. I think it starts with their guys up front. They got a couple players up front. I think the one, Ben Florentine, defensive tackle, seldom comes off the field. I mean, he's on the field all the time. They got a defensive end, number, I think it's 40, Bryce Westland. Again, another young man, doesn't come off the field. And so you're starting to see, who their guys are, why they've had success. We have to be efficient on early downs, and then we have to, again, it's happened to us a couple different games where we've had administrative penalties. Delay a game, illegal substitution, false starts. We have to avoid those scenarios. 1st and 15 isn't a recipe for success. We gotta stay out of that situation. We gotta quit inflicting those negative plays on ourselves. And I think those are 2 easy ways for us. Again, easier said than done, but there's something that we're emphasizing this week and last week as we went into our bye week.
Physical front with this group, how crucial is it to win that battle for the run game specifically? Obviously, the strength of this offense, the way it goes. How much is it conversation-wise between what you're scheming versus what those guys can execute on Saturday in terms of the run game?
Well, you're exactly right. I mean, we got to try to match their physicality or exceed it. We need to come up with some things where we can create some issues, run fit wise. Take advantage of either safeties or corner. We got to try to find what's the one-on-one matchup that we're trying to win with, especially with our backs right now. And I think we're putting together or have put together a good plan. We started last week, continue to emphasize it all week long, and it'll be exciting. I mean, we played well at times against Boise. We need to continue to play with that physical nature. Hopefully our kids understand that, if you win the time of physicality, you win the time of possession, you have a great opportunity to win games.
Jason Jacks leads the nation in fumble recoveries. I don't know, is that luck or is that skill where he finds his nose with the football? And
I'm not going to say – I wouldn't say it's luck by any means, but our team has heard me say that your value is determined by the distance from you and the ball. It tells me that he's around the football a lot and hard to take those guys off the field.
Coach, the conference has seemed to have favorites throughout the season pop up and then suddenly have a horrible game that makes it seem like it's anyone's chance to win at the end of the year. Does that give you hope to instill in your team that despite some rough games during the middle of the year against Colorado State and San Diego State, that the conference is still up for grabs? I guess
I haven't really even broached that topic with our team, because all that matters is we got to take care of business this week, and we got to have a great week of prep and find ways to win each day and find ways to be competitive on Saturday.
Forcing turnovers has been huge for you guys. How big is the turnover battle in terms of winning and losing each game compared to moving the yards down the field offensively? Sorry, let me rephrase that.
Okay.
How important is forcing turnovers in terms of the overall scale of the game?
I think it's big. I think analytically, if you look at it, I think if you're +3, you win 80% of the games. If you're +1, you win 60%. So I think statistically, it tells you that you got to protect the football. The ball is the program. And on defense and special teams, you got to find ways to get your opponent to put it on the ground. And so you are what you emphasize. And Coach Benedetto and his staff have done a tremendous job of either starting each practice with some sort of ball security and or tackling circuit, just to reemphasize the little things that we want to continue to emphasize on a daily basis.
And then the inverse of that, protecting the football, has been in games that you guys have won this year, it's been one or less turnovers in every game, I believe. How important is it protecting the football?
Well, I think I kind of answered both there. I mean, it's critical. You give extra possessions, you lose possessions, field position, all that stuff is incorporated into turnovers and takeaways. And again, when you continue to talk about the ball is the program, I think that emphasizes that we need to make sure that we have it. We need to have it offensively. We need to find a way for our opponent to put it down.
Coach, we heard you talk about Wyoming's defense. Can you give a scouting report on their offense as well?
Yeah, I think one of the rooms that I'm really impressed with is their running backs. I think they got three running backs that run extremely well. Samuel Harris, Teron Kelman, who had an amazing run at the end of the San Jose game, jump cut, start, stop, very difficult to tackle, has some juice. But, and then they're complemented by a really good offensive line. I think, an offensive line that hasn't given up a lot of sacks, offensive line that's played together, big physical, has some athleticism too. We'll get to second level. We got to do a really good job of trying to create some knockback, and it'll be a big challenge for us up front this week. And then have some receivers that have shown. Chris Dewar, Jalen Sargent, two of their top receivers. Chris Dewar has some electric speed, guy that's in motion. They're going to try to challenge your eye discipline with him at different times and utilize him not only kind of in some of the jet sweep game, but also they're going to get him out in space as well.
Seems like this game, maybe more than any so far, the mentalities and the approaches might be the most similar. Is this a game where toughness truly wins?
I mean, it potentially could be. You go back the history of Wyoming, and I have a pretty good idea, having gotten to know Craig Bowl really well. I'm sure there's some similarities, some things that we emphasize that Coach Sawville is emphasizing in his team meeting today, that they need to win the line of scrimmage, need to eliminate explosive plays, and got to tackle really well. The fundamentals are going to show up in a game like this.
And you mentioned the team getting healthier. Is there any specifics you can share?
Brock Liam will be back this week. Tight end, who we're excited about, was going to have a huge role for us during the season. He'll be back. DJ Lafitte is back practicing with us. So, those are two guys that have really, Brock has busted his tail, all season to get back to having an opportunity right now. Now we just got to make sure he's in shape and a little bit of conditioning. You bet.
Coach, what have you learned about the competitiveness of the Mountain West and that any team can have anybody's number any week?
I think well-coached football teams, coaches try to find an edge each week. You have to be prepared, especially when you go on the road. Road victories are hard to come by in this league, and so you have to make sure that you're fully prepared in all three areas, and make sure that your kids are aware of kind of the traps that are out there. When you go into an opponent's stadium or on the road, there can be some distractions at times, but it's exciting, and the fact that we're talking about so many different teams and so many teams that have had success. It's nice to see some parity, but I think that's something that is becoming more and more commonplace over the landscape of college football right now.
Braden Walton, how have you continued to see him grow with the adversity he's faced with injuries this season?
Well, he's been banged up. I don't know if I'd necessarily say. I think he missed one game due to injury. Did a tremendous job of getting himself back. He's a football guy. He's wired the right way. Loves his teammates. Loved the game. Comes out to work every day. Does not operate like an 18-year-old at all. He has raced to maturity since the minute he walked on campus. Has done a tremendous job and continues to improve. And there's things that once we get to the offseason, we'll address with them where we think we can continue to get better. But it's exciting to know that we have a young, talented left tackle like him for the foreseeable future.
I know you mentioned when we spoke after Boise that you guys decided to keep things simple for Carson when you guys were on the road there. Have you seen him kind of develop and get more comfortable throughout the bye week now?
I think so. I mean, it's more reps, more opportunities. Quarterback is a high rep position, and for him, he needs to continue to get the walkthrough reps, the 7-on-7 reps, the small group and team reps that we're getting. Even today, we had a little bit of competitive period. We had a bulldog period where it was good versus good and 7-on-7 in the red zone, and then we finished with a 2-minute drill. And again, I think those competitive moments, you want to see. It creates pressure. Pressure's either it's going to translate into diamonds or burst pipes. And so we're just trying to identify what we can handle and how much is too much for a young quarterback.
Morning, Coach. Look at your 3 conference wins, and turnovers forced is a huge part of all 3 of your conference wins. How do you sustain that type of turnover production on the defensive side for the last 3 games?
Well, I think you continue to emphasize it. We have tried to implement some takeaway drills, tackling drills to start every practice. Again, you are what you emphasize. We're going to emphasize be great at the simple things. And when you really narrow the game down, it's a game of fundamentals: blocking, tackling, catching. Sometimes as coaches we try to make it extremely complicated, but if you're not very good at any of the fundamentals, you're going to struggle every week. And so just emphasizing being around the ball. Getting to the football. I think what you've seen the last couple of weeks is a defense that's pursued really well. We've given up limited explosive plays, and when you have people around the ball, hopefully that second player, third player in has an opportunity to get the ball on the ground. And then we got guys breaking on the football when there's maybe a throw. We're playing some zone coverage. We're playing some vision defense, and that's exciting to see.
How different is Carson Conklin's mindset today, this week, as opposed to 3 weeks ago when he's entering his first start?
Well, I'm sure there's a little bit of difference. I think his prep is trying to elevate or changed a little bit. When you're the backup, again, being a backup quarterback's the easiest job in football, isn't it? I mean, it's the job everyone wants. Everyone likes you. And all of a sudden now you become, all attention's on you. What's your daily routine? What's your weekly routine? I know last night he was up in the office for an hour and a half in our staff room watching film, and little things like that. You're starting to see the maturity, his approach, knowing that he still wants to continue to put good things on film and help lead this team to wins.
And you guys have responded pretty well to setbacks. What do you think the reason is for that?
Well, I think, one, I don't think we belabor them. I think we try to limit and learn from the opportunity. Never want to let a loss turn into 2. Life is full of ups and downs and adversity. You get 2 choices. You can either outthink it or outwork it. And I think this football team understands that we can outwork it. And if we do that, it'll give us an opportunity to go have success.
Good morning, Coach.
Good morning.
Curious just if you have maybe one thing that sticks out to you on how your offense improved just over the bye week.
I think kind of the physicality, the nature of which we played a week ago, I saw that bleed into kind of what we were doing this week. And then I thought we had some young players step up. Young man, due to injuries, Harold Duvall is going to have to be an impact player for us the remainder of the year. And so got him in a lot more looks. Again, having guys like Ryan Wilson back, getting more reps for him. Ethan Tierney's kind of getting back to where he was early in the year, and then he had a setback with an injury. So those are the things that I've seen offensively, just operating at a higher level, clicking off our base offense a little bit faster. I think there's less thinking, more reacting out there.
have anything kind of to talk about the pace of having 3 bye weeks in a season? How maybe the reaction of the team or the staff on how you guys.
I know what my reaction is. I was bored to death on Saturday. I thought I had a great plan in place where I was going to stay busy, but I was probably up before the sun was. Watched every game I could and was still ready to get back to the office. Yesterday I showed up, plenty early. Was probably here 12, 14 hours during the day, just ready to get back, ready to be around our football team. And we started off with a good meeting this morning. Our guys are excited. We talked a lot about our senior group that we have. We have 20 plus seniors. All they're guaranteed is 11 more practices after today. And so we're going to do everything we can to make sure these seniors go out the right way.
Coach, you talked about the parity. There's 7 teams in the Mountain West with 1 or 2 losses. When do you scoreboard watch?
I don't. Because we just got to worry about us. Again, we got to take them one at a time. You all of a sudden let those outside distractions in. I think you're setting yourself up for, a disappointment.
With Veterans Day tomorrow, just curious, are there any veterans on the squad?
No, not at the time. But we have a number of parents, grandparents that either are currently serving or served in the military. That was one of the conversations we had when we went out to Hawaii and have the opportunity, along with Paul, to go to Pearl Harbor.
And since it's Wyoming week, I'll ask the question, would you recruit Josh Allen?
Of course I would. She's right down the road. Why wouldn't I?
It didn't happen a couple of years ago.
I'm worried about just what Matt Entz does.
Coach, you finally have a homestand here at Valley Children's Stadium. This season's kind of had a little back and forth, little swing. Has that kind of been a blessing for you guys, kind of knowing where you're going to go, or kind of a little bit of a weird feeling for you?
No, it's fine. I mean, I think most conferences never allow you to have more than 2 home games in a row. So when you do have 2, I think it becomes a little bit, abnormal. But it's exciting. I think the thing that we looked at is, we're not leaving the state of California in the month of November, which I think is unique. Probably had our opportunity for our cold game was maybe last weekend. Maybe this might be our coldest game of the year coming up, and it might be 60 degrees. So, it is what it is. Again, when you see the schedule, you just take them week by week and try to prepare. There's added benefits to being on the road. You kind of circle the wagons. It's you against everybody. But I think our kids kind of have that mentality right now, where it's us against us, and we got to put our best product on the field.
You talk a lot about going 1-0 every week, but these final 3 weeks going into the end of the regular season, how important is that building momentum, not just for your bowl game now that you're bowl eligible, but next year going into the Pac-12?
Oh, it's all critical. I mean, when you pride yourself on being a premier developmental program, getting the 6th win was critical because it gives us, roughly maybe another 10, 12 practices somewhere at some point. Again, we'll worry about that when we get there. But, again, that's an opportunity for our young players, our guys that are still developing, 12 more days in the weight room. I mean, we've seen some huge gains out of our developmental lift group that's lift 4 days a week right now. And so, we're going to take every minute that we get on the practice field. Now, of course, it's November. We got to adjust. Meeting time becomes really a priority right now because you can't practice in November like you did in September. You talk about 3 bye weeks. I mean, what is this, week 14 of football right now? I mean, with all our bye weeks and things, it's a unique challenge right now. But at the same time, I think our guys are healthy. They're in a good place mentally, and we're still building. We're still growing, and what an opportunity for us in the month of November to play meaningful games.
And then you mentioned you were just bored out of your mind this past week, but did you get to watch your Bison pick up a big win against the other team?
I got to watch about the last 5 minutes of it. I had some recruiting responsibilities on Saturday. My wife was back in the Midwest. She went to the game. So I got the full 411 once I was able to connect with her.
Coach, you were asked about handling setbacks. How about handling success? Because that was a big win against Boise State. First regular season win on the Blue. All the historic nature of it,
Sure.
we talked about last week. What are you doing this week to make sure this team doesn't get too big for its britches after a win that made those kind of waves?
Well, today I talked about, and I used an example of the 28-0 win that Wyoming had over a team that whipped us in Fort Collins. And so that was about the same time we started to feel really good about ourselves and, thought we'd arrived, and all of a sudden we came out and laid an egg. So subtle reminders that you're only as good as your next game, and we need to make sure that we continue to move forward and stay healthy, and we got to practice with a purpose. We got to have, go in the weight room with a purpose and make sure that we're checking all the boxes that will allow us to be competitive on Saturday.
You were asked about Veterans Day already, but tomorrow is Veterans Day. It's the biggest Veterans Day parade west of the Mississippi, right here in Fresno. And you mentioned, connections on your team to those who have served. I know you have some family connections. Is there something you want to say to the men and women in our community who have served our country?
Just that, appreciate everything that you guys have done. You're currently doing what, we still live in the greatest country in the world. And because of the people that have protected our borders, fought overseas, done the little things. A lot of times football players like to talk about the grind. And that's one of the things that I don't allow. That we're not allowed in our program. We get to play a game, this is easy. What those people have done, it takes a different type of person. It takes a special individual.
And something you said last week got a lot of traction on social media when you talked about taking the iPads away after a quick second.
Yep.
and getting back to the fundamentals of team football, being present with each other. Should we expect that to continue the rest of the way?
I think so. You know me as a superstitious person, so whatever we did last week, we're going to do the exact same thing. And like I said, I've been wearing the same socks for 2 weeks now. So, but I just think there's something to it. It's a relationship. We want to be we're a transformational program. We believe in relationships with our athletes, with our coaches, with our support people, with ancillary people, and our words and actions got to match up. And how do you stay engaged? Let's correct. Let's move on. Like I said, I pulled the grease board out, and I think our guys were like, "What is this thing?" That he has out, but. I think it created better energy on the sideline. We don't need to look at every single thing. We have great teachers. Give the teaching point. Give the pieces of information they need. And let's move on. Let's go play fast instead of cluttering our minds with a whole bunch of other things that we're worried about. All right, guys, have a great week.